Hi, I'm Doug McKinlay and you're watching Adorama TV. This video is a follow-up of sorts from our previous one where we looked at what it's like to work on a photo assignment. But for today we're going to look at some of the aspects of what you should think about before you start selling your images.
Adorama TV presents Stay Focused with Doug McKinlay.
First, this is not an easy business to get into, and even a more difficult business to stay in. You have to be fresh all the time, which can be exciting. I'm not trying to dissuade anybody from becoming a professional photographer because there will always be a need for us. But it's a difficult road and I'd be remiss not to say so. Forewarned is forearmed. Now, photography is a wide arena. There's lots of different genres. So I think first off, you have to figure out what you want to shoot. Now for me, it's travel and documentary photography. So that's what we'll discuss, my little corner of the photographic world. But just keep in mind, the things we're going to talk about, there's lots of crossovers. Getting ahead in this business takes patience. There are no quick routes. So if you have designs to work in this area, I hope you have a lot of patience. If not, you're going to have to get some. Now, for example, when I'm shooting long exposures, long timed exposures, I could be out there all day long and maybe only get one image, and I'm happy with that. So getting a foot in the door means more than having skills as a photographer. In fact, sometimes the photography skills come second. As a professional, you have to always keep in mind that this is a business. And as such, you've got to build your client base. You've got to talk to people. You've got to get your contacts. You've got to deal with newspaper editors, magazine editors. It's all about trying to sell yourself and your product. Because bottom line, that's what you've got. You've got a product and you want to sell it. So you've got to build as much of a contact base as possible. Now, part of this is when you're away is making sure you keep really good notes. So you always got to carry a notebook. You've got to have the names of people spelled correctly, place names spelled correctly, because if you don't, it will come to bite you in the butt later on. So personally, I think what's at the heart of all good travel pictures is the research. More than just your online research. You've got to get out there and look at the newspapers and the magazines. Check the Sunday supplements, the Saturday sections, and see what's being sold and what's being bought. Also, you don't have to go to Outer Mongolia to get great images. In fact, at the moment, I see a lot of call for pictures of the real neighborhood feel. The cold hard reality about being a pro photographer these days is the market has changed radically. Digital has got a lot to do with that. But as a pro photographer, you have to really cast your net wide now. You have to put your business brain into action. Shelve the old creative side for a little bit and think about the money. So that means things like selling prints as art from your websites, getting involved with exhibitions, either on your own or in a group, using your travel imagery in a commercial way, advertising for instance, teaching photo courses, even doing videos. Even though magazine and newspaper commissions are thin on the ground, they're not dead as a dodo yet. In fact, these are the areas I prefer to work in. Now, unfortunately, they're also the most difficult to access for new talent. Now, in my opinion, the old way is the best way. Try to contact the picture editors and make an appointment to show your work. When I first moved to the UK 20 odd years ago, I cold called hundreds of people in that first year. Not a lot of fun, but necessary. And if you do manage an appointment, then that's the time to show your portfolio, which we'll cover in a future episode. Now, I keep banging on about picture agencies, and I do think they're a valid source of income. Obviously, they're not going to be your only source of income as a photographer. Very few people have that luxury. But the key thing to think about with these agencies, once you've found one you actually like, is you have to think about the percentages. Now, not too many years ago, it was a pretty common thing for a 50-50 split with picture sales. You know, if you sold a picture for $100, £100, you got 50 and the agency got 50. Well, that's all changed in the last little while. Now, I've heard stories of where it's as little as 20% for the photographer and 80% for the agency. So make sure you read all the T's and C's, all the terms and conditions, all the guidelines before you actually sign a contract. You have to be aware of this stuff. You don't want to sell yourself short. So by now you've kind of got the idea that being a pro photographer is not as easy as it once was. Actually, I don't think it ever was easy. But another way to look at a way to not so much make money, but to maybe further your career is to look at the NGOs, the non-government organizations, and the charities. Oftentimes these charities will need a photographer to document what they're doing in other parts of the world. Usually they just cover room and board and travel, and they may not pay anything else but that. But what you get as a photographer is you get experience. You learn how to work to deadlines, how to organize. You build a catalog of pictures that you can use in the future to further your career. Now, something to think about before you sign on with one of the charities or NGOs is who owns the copyright. Ideally, you want to own the copyright. Now, if their contract states that they're actually going to own the copyright of your images, I would think twice about signing on with them, because that sort of takes your ability to use those images for future usage for yourself out of the picture. I know this is just the tip of the iceberg, but I want to hear your experiences, both good and bad, so please get in contact. I'm Doug McKinlay. Don't forget to subscribe to Adorama TV for more great videos. And please like, comment, or share in this video. And come on by the Adorama Learning Center for more great tips and tricks.
Do you want great looking prints at low cost? Be sure to visit our easy to use online printing service. Adorama Pix has professionals who treat your images with the utmost care that you can count on. For a quick turnaround on photos, cards, or albums, use AdoramaPix.com.